in that 10 years ago this month, Facebook bought Oculus. And Oculus has this impractical, bulky device that's clearly not ready for consumers. It wasn't very expensive, but you needed like a god-level PC to run it. So you need an expensive PC to run it. But you have the demo. It's amazing. It's clearly part of the future. Like, oh my God, this works now. 10 years later, Apple launches this thing. It's expensive. It's impractical. It's bulky. It's clearly not ready for consumers. You have the demo. Oh my God, it's amazing. This is clearly part of the future. Meanwhile, 10 years of work and $15 billion a year of R&D budget, Meta has the Quest 3, which is a perfectly good, credible consumer device that does not have traction, it's probably got, I don't know, maybe 10 million active users, huge abandonment rate in the past. It's not really good for anything other than games. I said this on Twitter and Zuck replied to me and said, no, like the top 5 apps are all social apps. I don't know, is that self-selection in the user base? Or what? Anyway, we're bumping along the bottom. We haven't got the hockey stick yet. And so the question is, the real question here is, and so what Apple have done is they've made a device that lets you use apps. You can have an iPad app in the room with you that looks like it's really there, which you can't do on the Quest yet. Now, set aside the fact that it's heavy, it's expensive, blah, 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 blah. Also, in fact, so is that useful? Like, that's really the kind of core question. Is it useful to have an iPad app floating in the room with you, or 3 iPad apps floating? Is that better than holding an iPad in your hand? Is the future of computing bigger screens? Is the future of computing seeing, it's a caricature, seeing more rows and columns in your spreadsheet at once? Is there a way that you can turn those apps into 3D? Because that's really the transformative thing. And I puzzle about this because I think like taking desktop stuff and putting it smaller and vertical on an iPhone was useful, even before you then get the native mobile stuff like Uber and TikTok and everything else. But just having the email from your desktop on your phone was already useful. We get that with BlackBerry and so on. Having moving stuff, the point is moving from desktop to mobile makes it better. Moving from 2D to 3D, much less easy to say why that's better. What is 3D email? What is a native 3D experience? And the point is, a native 3D experience is a harder thing to see than a native mobile experience. But the point is, even taking the desktop stuff to mobile was better. Taking the 2D phone stuff to Vision Pro is not really much better, except for a very small number of people who want millions of screens. And that might be like looking at a color screen in 1985 and saying, well, I don't need color in my spreadsheets. I don't need color in my documents. Text is black and white. Though I'm not sure about that. And so there's a real puzzle here of how big does this become? And you can get all these kind of deterministic frameworks. So people look at the iPhone. People always look at the new thing and say it's not useful. It's a toy. You have to ask yourself, okay, yes, but presume it gets very cheap and very lightweight, which is my point. Ignore the price of the Vision Pro for the sake of argument. Ignore the fact that it's heavy. It can get light. It can get cheap. Will it be useful then? And for the iPhone, yes, it wasn't obvious at the time, but it was easier to see that. I think there's a kind of some sort of deterministic tools here maybe. One of them is you're not going to wear a headset no matter how light and cheap it is all day outdoors. I would not have worn it walking here even if it weighed 100 grams and had completely perfect pass-through. Therefore, it can't replace your phone. Therefore, we are looking at a sort of iPad-y kind of market opportunity. It's a phone accessory, which is, not a bad market. It's a couple of hundred. Well, how many people have got an iPhone? 400 million people, maybe? It's a big thing, but it's not like the universal compute platform that replaces the phone. And for that, you would need glasses, and we don't know how far away glasses or the optics for glasses are. The fact that Apple has shipped this suggests that Apple doesn't think it's got them yet. Meta is spending $15 billion a year trying to make them. Apple maybe too. But this is, again, it's almost like the AGI question. How far away into the future are something that looked like the glasses that we're both wearing that could put an iPad app here that we could both see? That feels like that could be a universal thing more than the headset. There's another backstop here, though, which is something can be amazing and part of the future, but not necessarily a universal part of the future.